All right, hello aerospace, and welcome to 312 Space Law. So the big concept of this lesson is that we will be reviewing what space law is and how space law was developed and also is still being developed. So specifically, if we look at space development as a whole, realistically, there were some military uses of space that were identified by the UN Conference of Disarmament, also known as the CD. That was established in 1979 with roots all the way back to 1960. And realistically, that goal from the United Nations was to reduce all weapons that were available, including an arms race in space. As you know, in the 60s and 70s was when we were competing with Russia specifically during the Cold War to reach to the moon, get satellites up and going. And a big fear was the weaponization of space. Now, in addition to that, we now also had non-military uses of space that were coordinating. So in 1958, the United Nations established a committee that looked at the outer space affairs, and it grew from 24 to 69 current member countries. So right now, the United States Office of Outer Space Affairs does exist, and it has 69 current member countries that participate in the rules and regulations and how we develop those for space. That office promotes peaceful use of outer space for all of mankind. It maintains contact with governments and non-government organizations. You may have heard the term NGO before. Those are entities like SpaceX that are non-government organizations that do access space. And then they also exchange scientific information. So as developments occur, they are shared so that way things are equitable between different countries. It also promotes international cooperation. A big project of this was the International Space Station during its development. And then they also maintain a registry of objects that are launched into space. This is critically important, as you're going to learn in our next lesson that focuses on space junk, because we have a lot of stuff in space and we have to know who owns which pieces, what orbits they're in. Otherwise, we end up with a lot of collisions and damage in our orbits. Now, looking at laws that govern space, to be specific, why do we need them? Well, realistically, the goal for space development was for the good of humankind. We are looking at all peoples having access to space. And then currently there are 5 international treaties and sets of principles that are agreed to by many nations. And that's kind of what we follow. And these space laws apply to military and non-military applications. And these laws prevent any claims of possessions made for outer space or bodies. So if Australia launched a shuttle to the moon, they could not say they were annexing the moon. It is an entity that belongs to all people, all humankind. So also it means that if you launch a satellite into space or something that's going to go into space, you are responsible for that object. If it causes damage, if it harms someone, whoever put it there is in charge of it. And so the state or the country or the NGO that launches the object has to pay for damage, has to make sure it's not doing anything harmful, etc. So these international agreements promote space for all humankind, and the United Nations is used as a mechanism for communication and coordination. So really all of this funnels through the United Nations, and space law protects space for all human beings.